All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Marakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect, the Bayath Dawadah, the house of David. So, as you know, I've been talking about stablecoin, ever since that devil, Nero 47, which he signed it in through the super elite banking families, right? That's why that was signed in because it's going to be federally reserved backed by USDC and the USDT, right? Which is going to be the issuer for CBDC, central bank digital currency, which pretty much is that's what we know that's going to come down to it, man. Going along with that chip, right? What you call how can I say it? A universal basic income. There we go. A universal basic income, right? So, without further ado, let's go here real quick. Let's go here because I haven't brought this out in a while. So let's pull this up. Let's make this bright, right? And let's do this here. So this is Agenda 2030, right? UN, the United Nations 2030 Agenda, right? These are 16 and 17 goals. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, right? 16.9, all right? Which is 17, but it says 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote peaceful societies and inclusive institutions for sustainable development. Only those with the RFID chip, right? Radio frequency identification, microchip, and a digital ID, right? Passport with biometrics, bio meaning the length or bio meaning the body or the life, or metrics meaning the length of the study of the body, right? It says data on a blockchain, which everything is going to be stored on a blockchain, all right? It says can be a part of a peaceful society. Social credits will be used to get the population to obey the new world order and punish unwanted behavior. Those who do not comply will be imprisoned or have all benefits on a blockchain turned off, right? It says strengthen, so 17, partnerships for the goals. It says strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize global partnership for sustainability. In order to implement all 17 SDGs and maintain global partnerships for the goals, a number of key technologies need to be further pushed on societies such as the CBDC, central bank digital currency, blockchain technology, CRISPR gene editing, AI monitoring, sensors, and a biometric facial recognition cameras, 5G, 6G, which is going to help those chips, right? High frequencies of radiation, smart city surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, and tracking, 15-minute smart cities, by the way, right? RFID chip, IoT, Internet of Things, right? IOB, Internet of Bodies, hooked up to the cloud, right? Nanotechnology, chlorium, right? And so on and so forth. Smart dust, you become a human antenna, right? Robotics, etc., to fully control the world, right? Of track, trace, and control while you're fully hooked up, while you're a full antenna. Okay? All right? So let's go into here. Let's go right into here and let's get this out here. Slovakia. Where I want to get it right here. Right? So it says they're using digital ID, mass surveillance, tokenization. There you go, tokenization, right? Nanotech, right? Nanobots and so on and so forth. Carbon credits. See? Stable coins, right? Smart meters, artificial intelligence, wireless signals, 5G, 6G, right? Bluetooth. You see that? All these things. This to build the digital new world order. Okay? All right? So let's get out of there. Right? Let's go here. It says, and I put this in, it says the USDC and the USDT for the Federal Reserve of Stablecoin registration. right, under the Genius Act enacted, right, in July 2025, the U.S. has established its first federal regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. The Federal Reserve, alongside the Treasury and the FDIC, oversees licensing, compliance, reserve quality, and customer identification standards for issuers like the USDC and USDT. Now, when I put up about this guy of Circle, right? Jeremy Allor, right? It says, I put that video up early. It says compliance posture issued by Circle, you see? And that's who is the CEO of it, Jeremy Allor, right? It says USDC aligns closely with the federal rules. Its reserves consist of cash at regulated banks and short-term U.S. Treasury bills held via a SEC registered fund managed by BlackRock. You see, meeting the strict 1.1 liquid asset mandates. All right, registration tracked, as well as position domestic non-bank entity operating above the 10 billion threshold. Circle is structured to satisfy direct federal oversight and regular public reporting. USDT in the federal framework compliance posture issued offshore by Tether. USDT holds more complex position while maintaining total asset exceeding liabilities, a portion of its reserves, and historically included non-permitted assets like gold, Bitcoin, and secured loans that do not qualify under the standard of the U.S. federal payment stablecoins rules, right? Adoption. Tether has structured separate institutional paths such as distant U.S. regulated offerings via federally chartered entities, okay, to manage compliance for regulated domestic markets while holding the border global supply of the USDT under involving agency rule markings. All right, key federal requirements. 1.1 backing. Reserves are restricted to high quality liquid assets like cash, central bank deposits, Slovakia, and short term U.S. Treasuries. Monitoring, all right, in 93 days or less, okay? Maturing in 93 days or less, right? Transparency. Issuers must publish monthly reserve compositions examined by registered public accounting firms, okay? It says identification rules. The Federal Reserve and partner agencies enforce customer identification and anti-money laundering programs comparable to traditional banking protocols. All right, so as you know there, right? So let's go here, right? Because I put this in. Where's it at? Right here. Oh, see, these doubles. These devils want to lie. Earlier when I put it in, it said that it was backed by it. But see, this is how you know that this man is a devil, man. All right? Anyway. Okay? Anyway. Let's get out of there. All right? Anyway, let's get out of there. Let's go here. Okay, let's go to the scriptures. Let's go to the scriptures. It says, this is Revelation 13 and 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Right? The image is the system. The beast is the revitalized Roman Empire, which came back here today, the Renaissance rebirth, which is America, a.k.a. Babylon the Great. Okay? It says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? Taking its microchip, its BCI, brain computer interface, you know? It says, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, the word mark, right? Let's go into it, Let's go into it. The word mark is charagma. All right, let's play it.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
Charagma, right? A stamp or imprinted mark, right? When you stamp something, right? Like when you get, when you go and buy, when farmers purchase animals or get animals per se, they put a mark upon them, right? They brand them, and they put their specific brand on them to signify that they own they own that cattle, right? So this is the same thing with this chip, RFID microchip, which would have the universal product code, right? The digits, the 12 digits, right, with your own specific number with 666 involved in it. That's why it says the number of a man, right? It says the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand of the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, right? There's many Antichrists, right? Or many anti-Hamashiachs, I should say. Okay? It says the mark brand upon horses, thin carved, sculptured, graving work of idolatrous images. Right? Charagma, right? It says from the same, a scratch or etching, i.e. stamp, a badge of servitude, or sculptured figure, statue, graving mark, right? So let's go here, right? Now this right here is karax, right? Which is the sharpening or a keen point, the needle that's going to be poked right from your forefinger and your thumb. That's going to put that chip inside of you, inside of your hand, right? A pale stake or palisade or a rampart, right? You see, it says pales between which earth, stones, trees, and timbers, and heaped and packed together, right? Here we go, right down here. It says a stake, i.e. by implication, a palisade or a rampart. Okay? It says through the idea of scratching. Right? So there you have it. Carasso. Okay? Alright, so let's go back here. So now you understand what the mark is. Right? It's the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast. Alright? It says in the right hand or in the foreheads. Okay, BCI, brain computer interface. Right? And that no man might buy or sell, right? Buying and selling is transactional. You see, that's a way to track, trace, and control and put it upon a blockchain technology. So you'll understand what everything is being tracked. Everything is being traced. And that's how they're going to keep up with you, with everybody in a digital system, a totalitarian, authoritarian digital system. Okay? All right? Save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that haveth understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man. Who is the man? Esau, Edom, the super elite banking families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Oppenheimers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Olsenis, right? You see? So on and so forth. Bilderbergs, It says, and his number is 603 score and 6. That's the number of the World Health of the World Economic Forum, right? You see, because they deal with money, and that's what this is all about, man. And that's that's all I really pretty much needed right there in here in this scripture. Now you take that chip, you're going to be destroyed, man. All right, let me go here. Revelation 16:2, it says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sword. A grievous sword is talking about Helkos, right? Helkos, okay? Pus, cancerous like pus from high frequencies of radiation, right? grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, or upon them which worshipped his image. Right? The system. Okay? Let's jump down to verse number 10. It says, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the earth, upon the seat of the beast, Salakia, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain, and blasphemed the power Yahweh of heaven because of their pains and their sores, hell coast, right? And repented not of their deeds. You see? And repented not of their deeds. Now, let's go over and read chapter 14, Revelation 14. And verse 9, if you take that ship, Yahweh Shem Yahshua is going to destroy you. See the subhead, doomed for the worshippers of the beast. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, right? Fire and brimstone is ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is going to be shot off by all these nations, Russia, China, right? Turkey, Iran, right? Which is Persia, right? See, so all these things are going to go down, right? It says fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. The Lamb is Yahushai. And the smoke of their torment is sent up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night. It says, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints, and here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushai. All right, so we're just gonna end it right there. We're gonna give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Marakah Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of Well. Peace and blessings and citations to the hopeful elect, the Bayat, the Wadah, the house of David, Kwam Yasha Allah, Abad Babal, repent ye, for the kingdom of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai is at hand. Shalom.
President Trump today signing the landmark Genius Act into law. It's the first major piece of crypto legislation in U.S. history. The bill boosting crypto further into the mainstream, now offering a regulatory framework for a so-called stablecoin in the economy. This as the Trump administration prepares to potentially sign another groundbreaking executive order, paving the way for 401k retirement saving plans to invest in private assets. We're going to explain all this. So what could these changes mean for you and your money? Our senior business correspondent, good friend to Top Story, Christine Romans, is here to break it down for us. So Christine, I want to start with the Genius Act.
Sure.
What is the stablecoin?
So it's a landmark regulation that kind of gives a regulatory framework around the stablecoin. What is stablecoin? It's something that is pegged to either the U.S. dollar, backed by U.S. treasuries.
A new type of cryptocurrency?
It's a small corner of cryptocurrency. It is about $300 billion. So it's a small cousin to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the one y'all hear about that can go up and down for sometimes no reason. Stablecoin is stable. Okay. So it's supposed to be a stable store of value. And
almost like a treasury note?
Almost, yeah. And this is the Treasury Secretary just got a note from the Treasury Department just a few minutes ago saying this could actually drive demand for U.S. treasuries because you need to back this sort of with reserve treasuries. So again, this is something that brings what was a fringe part of the financial landscape, crypto, into the mainstream.
Okay. And then we've been hearing so much about private equity, right? Yeah. And people who can invest in private equity, usually on the upper end of the economic spectrum, right? Upper end, I should say. So now the president wants private equity to be an option for 401ks. Explain that.
He wants to open up this $14 trillion market to the big private equity managers. Right now, they have endowments, they have ultra high net worth individuals, they have some pension funds.
Index funds, public stocks, all that.
They want these big private equity guys and women, but mostly guys, want access to that $14 trillion 401k market. Now, here's the interesting thing. These private equity investments can be very high risk, very high reward. The president thinks Americans should have access to that part of the market. A lot of certified financial planners I've been talking to are still very cautious because they think most Main Street investors need low-cost fee, funds. They don't need drama.
So wait, to understand this, basically in your 401k, you'd have an option to invest in a private equity fund.
Yes, exactly, in private equity investments. And look, some people say, we want to be able to
tap into whatever's out there.
If the rich guys are doing this, we should be able to do it too. thing is you don't have as much money as the rich guys. And if you can't afford to lose it,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be putting it in a retirement.
401ks have been around for a while now,
Yeah, they
decades,
have.
right? They've done very well for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But now we're hearing about crypto and private equity coming into 401ks as well. Why the change now? Is it time?
It's the president. The president has close allies and supporters who are really bullish on crypto and on these big private equity funds. He's been backed by some of these people. The president himself, by the way, and makes money on crypto. His three sons co-founded the a crypto platform. The president himself made $57 million last year from that platform, among other things. So the president bullish on crypto personally and wants to do it for the country.
Stablecoin. It may just sound like another crypto buzzword, but some of the biggest names in finance are betting that it could become one of the most important innovations in payments in recent years. Visa and MasterCard are among dozens of major firms backing a new stablecoin pegged to the US dollar called OpenUSD. Just last summer, Congress passed the Genius Act, creating a regulatory framework for the industry, and some analysts estimate the stablecoin market could grow from roughly $300 billion to as much as $1.45 trillion by 2035. But just what is a stablecoin to begin with?
Stablecoins are a form of cryptocurrency that is designed to sort of overcome one of the sort of fundamental weaknesses of cryptocurrency, which is that it's far too volatile to be used as a medium of exchange.
They're pegged typically one for one by the US dollar. So they have a very stable value, hence the name stablecoins. Other types of crypto like Bitcoin are more of an investment vehicle versus stablecoins really are intended to be a payment utility.
Think of them as digital dollars that live on a network that securely records all transactions. Today, moving through the financial system can take several business days and often involves banks and payment companies that charge hefty fees. Stablecoins, however, offer some clear advantages over traditional payment systems.
Stablecoins can be transacted at a very low cost. You can move funds from New York City to Melbourne, Australia in 3 to 5 seconds at a fraction of a penny.
That has banks, payment companies, and retailers paying attention. For now, stablecoins are most commonly used within crypto markets. If an investor wants to sell their Bitcoin without converting it back into dollars immediately, they might park that money in a stablecoin. This makes it faster and more convenient to trade or buy other cryptocurrencies later on, without the delays that can come with moving funds between the bank and the crypto exchange.
I mean, that was and still is like the primary use case for stablecoins is to essentially trade in crypto markets. You know, the analogy that's been used in the past is that essentially stablecoins are like the casino chips at the crypto casino.
But experts say that stablecoins could become more prevalent very soon.
So there's a lot of build out that's occurring, a lot of infrastructure being put in place. But I think consumers will start to see more exposure to stablecoins as a payment alternative starting in 2027.
So what could that look like? Consumers could soon be holding digital stablecoin wallets to make purchases online and in person. Major companies could also start issuing coins of their own.
I think you'll see potentially some of the very large retailers, such as Amazon and Walmart. Large companies like that today pay presumably billions of dollars in interchange fees, could really shave significant expense off of their operations. They also would hold the reserve deposits backing these stable coins, so they could generate yield for those companies. And where I see Amazon and Walmart potentially going, if they go down this path, is then enabling the consumer to receive a discount. If you check out at the Amazon website and use Amazon coin. I'm kind of making that up. And again, I think the belief is that some of the savings then will be passed along to the consumer to create incentives or rewards for shopping at Amazon or shopping at Walmart. That's where I think you'll start to see more mainstream usage and adoption of stablecoins.
And as AI becomes more deeply integrated into commerce, the need for stablecoins could also grow. Jeremy Allaire, CEO of stablecoin issuer Circle, has argued that an economy increasingly powered by AI agents will require digital money that can move at machine speed. But despite all the excitement surrounding the technology, experts also warn that consumers shouldn't view them as safe investments or a replacement for traditional savings accounts.
If you're in the US, there's really not a lot of compelling reasons why stablecoins are better than other similar alternatives, right?
For starters, stablecoins aren't FDIC insured, meaning if something were to go wrong, consumers won't have the same protection as they would typically have when holding money in an FDIC insured bank.
You think that when you give $1 to a financial services firm and they hold that dollar on your behalf, that money ought to be insured by the government up to $250,000 per account. That is not the case with stablecoins. They offer zero insurance.
Holding on to stablecoins also does not generate interest in the traditional sense, despite the fact that they are backed by assets like treasury bills that generate income over time.
That the Genius Act prohibits stablecoin issuers from paying interest or yield. What the industry has done is sort of figured out a clever workaround to that. So you and I could go to a cryptocurrency exchange like Coinbase, for instance, buy USDC on Coinbase, hold it with Coinbase, and Coinbase would pay us what they call a reward, which is functionally equivalent to interest or yield. As you might imagine, the banking industry is not too happy about that arrangement because it's, of course, competition. And they're concerned that stablecoins that offer customers interest or yield would siphon deposits out of the banking system. And of course, deposits are what banks use to make loans to the real economy that generates economic growth. Is the banks are trying to sort of close that, what they call a loophole in that, and the crypto industry is resisting.
There also isn't a guarantee that stablecoin will maintain its peg to the dollar.
So despite the name, there's actually not a single stablecoin that has, over its entire history, maintained its peg. So the largest stablecoin, for instance, Tether, which is headquartered overseas, they're roughly 60-70% of the stablecoin market. There have been doubts and questions swirling around the validity of their reserves for quite some time. And that has led to, at various points, the price of Tether dipping below $1, not by a lot, but it has gone below a few times. But I think that is sort of one of the concerns from a policy standpoint that remains, which is we could have a run, just like we've seen bank runs, if folks start to doubt that there's actually, that they're going to be able to get $1 back for their stablecoin. That could trigger them to panic and sell into the market, which would, only make the situation worse.
Stablecoins may not change the financial system overnight, but with lawmakers, Wall Street, and Silicon Valley all paying attention, they're certainly becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The real question isn't whether stablecoins are generating buzz, it's whether they can deliver on their promise of revolutionizing payment systems as we know them.